Alright guys, a little bit of an update on the stuff I've been doing. Decided to change the channel out a little bit here. What I did is I actually raised the body back up a little bit, just to give me some more headroom. I think it went from like an 8-inch channel to like a 6-inch. I still got to cut this bar out yet. That was the piece that went in through the doors. When I chopped it out, it was connected like right here. I still got to cut this little bit of a bar off yet, but give me a second here and I'll get the plywood out and I'll show you what I have done. Alright, you can see where it was welded before, and I think that was just way too much, but I did leave enough of the body underneath to cover with the frame rails, so you can't really see them from outside, just so it doesn't have like that high boy look. And then I got supports in here. I got to cut this off, and then by doing that, having this rear section raise up, it actually is above where the leaf spring mount is now, so that'll be a little bit easier to deal with. And then what I'm going to do is I got some fiberglass, so I'm going to fiberglass from here over to the body just to seal everything up, and then I'll be able to put square sections of the floor in. And then your seats will sit in here, and there's enough room for them to move back and forth. And then a little bit of a hump up there, and I can mount my keg gas tank in there and stuff. And have the filler net come kind of straight through there, through the back. And yeah, still waiting on some suspension components, but it'll be able to come off the frame here soon and start working on it. And I got some tail lights here the other day, probably showed them to you already, but got a couple other little things like window regulator and trying to get some latches and stuff for this one door here. This other door, I already got the latches and the regulators in it, so it closes up all nice. Got a little bit of work to do on the bottom of the door. That section seems to be crushed, so we'll get that fixed up too. And then I got some more steel here. I'm going to do some more bracing in between this and make it a bit more stout. But yeah. And then I'm planning on putting the tail lights just below this body line here, and then the filler neck in the center. But yeah, I got this frame here, so what I plan on doing is putting that leaf spring that's in the car now in here, and weld it to the rear end, and then there will be a plate here and a plate here, and then there will be parallel 4 bars, so, and they'll run to a bracket that's welded about here, so that's how the rear end will hinge. And then here on this frame, this is a good condition frame and nothing wrong with it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it about here somewhere, and then I'm going to cut this one here somewhere, and then I'm going to set the one with the front suspension on top of this to give it kind of like a Z'd look. And then I haven't decided to. If I do, I might have to change the floor again, but I might cut this one off too and use the back of that frame, so it makes the frame in like a U shape, and that way I can get that aggressive kind of low look like it had before. Because when I took that 6 inches out, it came up 6 inches here, and I kind of like the look where the tire was real tight to the well. But I can gain back some clearance with taking out some leaves, but I'd just rather have the frame recessed a little bit. And then if I have to redo that little step, so be it. But yeah, we'll go take a look at the rear end I'm planning on using. So this is what I'm planning on running in the car. It's an old like 60s quick change. And it used to be on a dirt track car, so they had cut the backing plates out so that the dirt and that could fall out. Or at least I think it is, but it has wheel cylinders and then it has pads in it, so should be okay to use. But still need to find a spline yoke for this to run a Chevrolet drive shaft. Which I have in here somewhere, yeah. Here's the drive shaft I plan on running. So, got a little stash of parts out here. And it's kind of got, I think it's called a full floater style, where the axle just goes in the end of the hub here, bolts onto it. But it runs wide 5 pattern. I think they're common right up to like 40 Ford. But the way this thing works is the input shaft goes all the way through here, and it has a gear on the back. And then there's another shaft that goes in here, and it spins your carrier here, which I think has a spool in it. And then you could just pop this plate off and change the gears at random, so you can change your gear ratio right on the fly. So, and I also have a kit to run a different bolt pattern. So you can bolt that on the ends instead of the 40 Ford, right? But I won't be running those. I don't think they'll look quite correct. You can't get nice looking 8-bolt rims anyways, so it'll be pretty stout once it's paired with that little 383 I got. So and then basically what you do is I'll cut off these old leaf spring mounts and stuff, and then these tabs right here, I'll probably cut them off and relocate them, and then that's where your parallel leaf will bolt to. And then you'll have a plate that welds on behind this, and your 4 bars come out to hold it. And then over in the center here, I'll make some brackets coming off the back of it, and then shock brackets on the back of that cross member. And that should be enough to hang that behind the car. Still have to find some good 40 Ford rims. Kind of would like to run artillery style, either that or like the dirt track car rims. I just have like the little square tabs and then just a big offset rim. So, and then I got a box of miscellaneous goodies in here. There's wiring and gauges and you name it, just a bunch of old GM stuff. Some old Kragers. Yeah, so a bunch of old bikes too. It's a Can-Am qualifier. It's a pretty rare old bike. All right. Now that you guys kind of see what my plan is, we'll go back and look at the Model A some more. So you can kind of see there's just enough to cover the frame. So kind of sits nice. Wish I had fenders for it, but whatever. And then I got the motor kind of just strapped in here, loosely fit, but it's going to have to go down and back quite a bit. So I'm going to have to cut a big kind of big square out of the firewall here. And basically what I want is it just to go down far enough. Like this is the old original Model A trans, and that's kind of the top of where the bell housing would bolt to. So it has to go down and back that much in order for me to have a flat floor with the turbo 350. So that's going to mean I'm going to have to notch like, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches out of here, and so the motor can sit in it and have enough clearance for the distributor. But I've seen a couple different styles of mounts, and there's one mount that kind of has a plate on the top and a plate on the bottom, and it just goes out with a pipe and a couple bushings in it. Now that would be fine and everything, but the kind of mount I want to do, it's a cross member, and it goes over, has a U shape, and connects to the other side of the frame, and then a piece of pipe comes up with your bushing and that, and I think that'll be a bit stronger. But in order to do that, I'm going to box all this frame, so just to make it a bit more robust. And then that'll deal with that, and then I got to find a rad. Because I'm planning on putting the engine so low, I think my rad is going to sit in front of this cross member. So I'm going to build like tabs that hold it, and hopefully I can get a rad that has a spout that would go underneath this cross member and connect to the water pump. So, or else if you put it on top, you're going to have to, it'll be way higher than the cowl. So it'll be like up here somewhere. It'll just look goofy. But that's kind of why I wanted to cut the frame and then lengthen it about 8 inches. And then I might not have to go so aggressive inside the cowl. I would love to have like a factory cowl and have everything underneath the floor. And with the 2 frames, I think I can do that, because I can gain whatever I would have to scoot the motor back, right? So if my frame from this point on was 6 inches longer, that would put the harmonic balancer behind this cross member. So this is how much I would like to gain, right? And if I did that, I could probably buy a chopped rad or whatever, or get one custom made, have it in the original location. But we'll see. We'll start with the back first and then move on to the front. So got the cursed cutlass all polished up. Just love the reflection on this car. It's just like glass. Yeah. Another thing I thought about too is just running like a pad for a bench seat in here. Just build like a box and put a pad on it. And then a guy could use this cross brace up top to weld like a backrest onto it. But I think what I'm going to end up doing is having like a boat style seat in it. Because I want something that flips forward. Because I'm going to have that gas tank mounted in here. And then I kind of want to cover it with like a plexi on top, and then have just half the gas tank showing, and like have 4 subs in it, and then a back wall that comes down at an angle for where the seats are, and then I can put my amps and stuff in there. But it's kind of what I'm planning. And this one too, I got to put some bolts up in it today, get it tucked up tight. And then this piece too, I would like to lower it. It's got like this kind of gap in here. And I think if I'm not going to have a swinging open windshield, it'd be nice to sink this down and just weld it flush. That, and I probably should shave this gas tank cap off too. I don't know. I was actually going to fill it up and see if it had any leaks, because it looks fairly clean inside. Ish. No flakes in it anyway, so. Got a lot of work on the interior to do. I got to pull out some wood and stuff that's left in there, but I think all the bracing and that's kind of intact. You can see pretty well everywhere. I cut patches out. So So she was pretty rough. And then I need to weld bars. See, there's the original subframe down there, and I'm gonna weld a bar to connect to it. And then I just kind of sliced it out so it clears the frame and that. And then instead of having, I'm gonna put fiberglass all along here to box it up and then box it over. I don't know, probably, maybe I'll do metal in here and then come over to it with fiberglass. But yeah, we'll see. Basically, I just need to seal this. Like the original Model A's, they had kind of like a form-fitting piece, but because I don't have that now, I have to seal to that. And it's stout enough that I could run fiberglass in there without it cracking or separating, so I think that might be the way to go. It'll be a little bit easier to do the floor, because if I run fiberglass to the back, I could just cut it and mold it however I want. And then when I go to cut my floor, I could just use pieces of steel or wood and just lay them in the kind of the squares. And then kind of on this subframing here, I want to take some flat bar and weld little tabs in. And then that's where the boards and that'll screw to, because it's not quite wide enough to butt two boards together. So this I plan on doing in maybe in one piece if I can get it, and then that's another piece, and then it'll have like a little filler in there. But just for some looks, I think I want to kind of go diamond plate on these three that surround the seats. And then here I need to cap off this end, and then because this is all rough, what I'm gonna do is weld like a finishing plate in here. But I'm gonna have it, instead of having the body curve on it, I'm gonna run it completely straight and make it kind of beefy up top here, so that when I put my interior panels onto it, it has something nice and flush to butt to. And then that way I can put something stronger around where these latches are all ratcheted out. And this will probably just be like a bolt-on piece after I spot weld the sheet metal onto the side, because it just has old nails in it. And that'll allow me to kind of finish that and make it look good. Get rid of some of the prior damages. And I can do that on this side too. And you can see it's all still filled with wood, right? So it'll allow me to pull that wood out and still have the body attached to there. That's why everything's just in primer, because I got a little bit of work to do that might mess up the finish. That and cutting the firewall. And this stuff can come out too. There's a piece of flat bar welded on top of there for support on both sides, so it's just stuck back in there kind of. And then you can see the daylight up here, but that's where those LED strips go. Yeah. And every screw on this thing just fights you. 100-year-old screws, they never come out. And then this here, the regulator has 3 bolts. And then this one is absolutely hammered out for some reason. So I'm gonna have to put a little patch in there to put the window regulator in. But this, I'll just keep doing kind of update videos like this, because a lot of the little stuff is pretty boring to watch. So I'll just do a bunch and then update you on it. And yeah, I plan on having like a bar here and then crossbars in it. But my welder went on the fritz. It's feeding out wire without pulling the trigger, so either need a new whip or a new welder. So it might be a bit until I can do that. But for the suspension stuff, still going to use the welder at work. It's a lot more robust. You can kind of see how that leaf spring bolts to the axle. All the hardware on that looks like it's on like the backing plate. So, and that other axle's a lot wider than this too. Should let me run big fat tires. And then you can kind of see on a Model A how everything just joins to like either the drive shaft or the transmission. All the wishbones and that. So if you're running like a V8 or whatever, you have to spread all that stuff out and connect it to the frame. This stuff's here is pretty ugly too. I got some metal work to do here before I finish painting it. Slowly but surely. There's a lot of work to do on one of these. Alright guys, so what I did is I got in here, I laid like 3 rows of matting, so it boxes all this stuff right to that subframe. So everything's nice, sealed all the way around here. And then your plywood goes on top, and then when you have your finished panel, it comes down and butts to it. So that's your first section of flooring in the car. Then I have to move up and do this. So I think what I'm doing in here is it's essentially going to have a box. I got to weld on some tabs for bolting stuff down too, but I haven't put any bolts in this plywood yet. But yeah, that's where she's going to sit. She's got enough room over top of that axle, so she's pretty happy. About an inch. So yeah. Which should keep the dust out and should make the panels more rigid. And then this stuff too, I'll sand it off all nice. Yeah, that's how we seal her up. Okay, now I've got some extra bracing welded in there. I got the floor screwed down. It's nice and firm. And then I got to cut this piece of plywood here, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Alright guys, so here's some of the floor. I'm going to weld in a few more bars here before I tackle this stretch. And I got to get some more plywood, but yeah, and then I'm going to have some steel covering over here. I'm going to cut that stuff right now and show you what that looks like. Alright, so now we got some steel over top of that fiberglass, just because, and then I'll make some filler pieces to fill in this ugly corner here when I get up to it. And then I'll probably get some little bit of angle iron, real thin stuff, and screw down to the bottom. And then that way it's all covered when you put carpet in it. And then you got something nice and firm over the fiberglass, so it should hold up for quite a while. Alright guys, so welded in another bar here to support the next piece of floor. Middle brace, and that end brace was there. I got some marks here. I might put some more bars across like I did on this section here just for some more support, but I'll wait until I get some more plywood and stuff, and yeah, we'll probably stop here for today. But inside of it's looking pretty good, and then I'll just make like a little finishing piece, kind of covers over here. Same with that one over there. And then probably gonna encapsulate this with another layer of fiberglass, just kind of sandwich that tin in between it, and gotta make another piece of tin to go over that fiberglass at the back. But she's coming along pretty good. Yeah, the back half of the floor anyways. Nice recess for where the seats sit, so should be pretty good. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Blah, 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 blah.
Da 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 da.